This dynamic spreads in seconds, tanks participation, and completely blocks true connection and engagement. Watch. I take out my phone, and all of a sudden, the other person sees, well, I'm not engaged with them, I'm engaged with my phone, so they take out their phone. And all of a sudden, the entire group is standing on their phone texting. Walked into a restaurant the other day, and there were literally 8 people standing in a circle, all on their phones. This is just one example of what I think is the most silent killer of engagement, and this video is dedicated toward unpacking it and overruling it. So the killer is not phones, right? The killer here is what somebody much smarter than me introduced to me with this phrase. You ready? There is always something happening while something is happening. So, like, real example in the moment, the content of this video is happening. The words are coming out of my mouth, and you're perhaps hearing them. That's the content. That's the most surface level, the most obvious thing. If somebody walked into this room, they would see the content that is happening. It's what is being said. But there's always something happening while something's happening. And so underneath, you have what I'm going to label process. And this is literally everything else other than what is being said. And so it's the fact that you might be half distracted, or somehow you ended up on a YouTube rabbit hole and you're watching this video like this, leaning back on a couch, or any other variety of dynamics that are present right now. You may be watching this video with a notebook in front of you, like leaned in, psyched to soak up what I'm about to share. And this might be your first time on the video and you have no idea why you're even here or what's happening. All of that is process. And here is what kills engagement. It's when everybody ignores that process and doesn't talk about it. And so as a leader, a professional connector, facilitator, educator, the most powerful thing you can do to create meaningful engagement without manipulating or cajoling people to get them to engage is, as you're traveling along in your content, if you notice something related to process that is significant, don't ignore it. Call it out. Drop down into process and say, and so the way that Will would do this, he would ask a question. So at the content level, he would say, hey everybody, I'm curious what's on your mind right now, for example. If the group didn't respond and there was total silence, he would let it sit for 5 to 10 seconds. But if it kept going, he didn't just ignore it and keep on going. Because if he did that, what he would say is, you know, when I asked you a question, it's not really that important if you respond, so don't worry about responding next time. No engagement needed. As opposed to what Will, my late co-founder and co-author, did, he would ask a question, and if nobody responded, he would drop down to process and just say, I don't know how to interpret your silence. Would you help me? And he would wait as long as it took for someone to speak to that. As soon as the group has spoken, they're bringing that process up into the content, and now you can do something about it. But when the process is here, it's just this silent killer that is eroding. I think of like, a river, very peaceful on top, very quiet, very calm on top. Underneath, millions of gallons of water are literally shifting rocks, worlds, moving things around. That's process. It's like content. You thought your lecture or your class or your training or your event that you're hosting, we spend all of our time at the content, the agenda, who's speaking, what are they saying, right? But the thing that's actually most impactful and most memorable is literally everything else that's happening underneath. So here's a maybe too close to home example. You have a meeting where boss A shares something that everybody is kind of perturbed by. The meeting ends, the content is over, but the process continues because all the whispers, the meeting after the meeting that happens, that erodes engagement to the max. People right in that meeting after the meeting decide, am I gonna choose to play along with this, or am I gonna go back to my desk, hop on LinkedIn and look for another job? And so one of the most powerful things leaders can do is to drop right down into that process. So if the leader shares news that they know that group's gonna be perturbed about, would that be really powerful to say, I don't know how this is hitting you right now, but I'm assuming that it's frustrating or disturbing or whatever else. And so if you're game with it, I'd love to just create 10 minutes for us to get into small groups and just debrief and unpack this. And when we come back, I'd love to ask you what stuck out what struck you, what'd you notice in those conversations, so that I can really hear that and we can all be together in this dynamic. Because yeah, I'm not super pumped about delivering this news either. Do you feel the difference? One, like staying at the content level totally would erode engagement. Dropping down into process, super profound way to honor people, empathize, communicate more transparently, and possibly even create a whole bunch of engagement and buy-in without any manipulation whatsoever. And just to come back to the phones thing, take this for what it's worth. A lack of digital connection very much promotes real connection. And so one thing you can do in process in a meeting context is really simply say, hey, these devices, recognizing even having them visible or vibrating or nearby takes us away from being present with each other. And so I'm gonna invite you to do something kind of weird and maybe a little unnerving. Unless you have a kid at school that is sick that you're kind of worried about, my invite is to take your phone and put them in a stack at the foot of the door. And when we leave, all the fires you need to put out will still be there. But my invite is, in terms of process, my invite is for 60 minutes, can we just hyper focus on making a difference in this aspect of our business? Cue scrolling product demonstration. This video was sponsored by a kit that I made called the Effortless Engagement Kit. And it literally is everything I've ever made, and it's somewhere below this video. But I named it the Effortless Engagement Kit because it's a lot of stuff to take in, but it is the only kit that I use and have used to facilitate well over 100,000 people and create an immense amount of engagement and drop between content and process like a little wizard. And so if you are looking to take your facilitation to the next level, I think you'd super love the Effortless Engagement Kit. Have an awesome day.